Alright guys, Hatchcoming here and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your take. So far, OpTic's campaign resumes this evening as they try and ensure they make it to this year's World Championship, but many aren't so convinced that over the last few days, they shouldn't have done something with their team. Octane, JCap and Zuma all seemingly of the opinion that OpTic should have blown it up going into their match this evening. That, of course, is not what they've decided to do. Shotzzy also responds to some suggestions over the last few days about the way the team is going, saying that he's probably going to stop tweeting after series, but apparently not because they're losing the games. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Yesterday was pretty telling, of course. Simp seemed to be back in form, which is pretty entertaining, really. And, well, of course, FaZe start their campaign quite nicely. The question really is, because they beat Surge yesterday, whether Surge can bounce back today, because that is OpTic's first game of the stage. OpTic don't have the hardest ever run in their 5 qualifiers, but it certainly doesn't start in the way that they would like it to. Cloud9, they have a very challenging run, but they've got off to a nice confidence-building start with a 3 against the Falcons yesterday. So they already, we'll have a look at the standings in a few minutes' time, and looking at an interesting position. FaZe get the Neslo win, of course we talked about that. Thought it was pretty interesting to see some of the names in 8s. aBeZy's been playing quite a lot lately, and it makes sense really, right? It's because aBeZy has been struggling in the hard points, so Drazah and aBeZy, Huke and JoeDeceives are on the same team with, well, Shotzzy, Skyz, Neptune and Beans. That was certainly one of the lobbies of all time, and then they did it again a few minutes later with pretty similar rosters. FeLo hopped in this one, Super hopped in this one as well. Benji was talking about some of the stats really on FaZe's hard points, saying that, well, their break and their kind of hold percentages are very low, but actually what they're really bad at is in the final 20 seconds of hard points. So there's a few things they can work on, but of course they're so strong all across the boards that, you know, they've got no issues really, at least still winning series, and Surge will have a fair few things to think about last night as well. Cool to see the flank as well. They're going to be out there in Dallas. Obviously it's not been confirmed yet who the other watch party is going to be, but I think we can probably guess what that's going to be looking like for the weekend. So yeah, going to be a mega weekend. It's coming up in a few weekends time, right? Because this is the first weekend, 2 more weekends of qualifiers, then we head out there to Dallas. There was a bit of drama from Encourage. I mean, obviously he's tweeted a lot lately, stepping away from challenges, and you can take this tweet a couple of different ways. I think the first thing to say really is that it's not like Encourage was really around in the pre-franchising days. I mean, look, he obviously, I'm sure he remembers it to some degree, but it's not like he was competing back then. Look, still, have there been pros and cons of franchising? Yes. Have there been many cons of franchising? Absolutely yes. Do I disagree with the statement? No, not really, right? Like, I think that franchising, I don't know if it's necessarily ruined it. I think it certainly set it back, like the way that things were over the first couple of years, and there are many things today that aren't as good as they used to be. I think we're kind of getting back there. I think on some level franchising has helped it survive, although certainly not thrive, right? So there's a few elements to it. Definitely from a tier 2 perspective though, yeah, franchising's been an absolute killer. And it's not like there aren't talents out there, because there are. Like, we're still fortunate in some respects that players like Mercules actually still exist, right? Like, players like talents like that are still coming through the junior ranks, even though, as Encourage said, justifiably the other day, that, well, what's the point competing anymore when I'm grinding 8 hours a day plus to make $0, and even if I get a league spot, I'm getting paid minimum salary, right? Because that's the type of teams that I would join. It's not a great ecosystem. The league needs to think about it. The thing that I do massively agree with, of course, is the age limit stuff. Of course, I've said this for a long time now. And it's not like the age limit hasn't been there in the Pro League, but certainly for challenges. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that you've got to be 18 to compete in challenges. Surely some sort of parental exemption. It really wouldn't be rocket science. Surely it happens in other esports as well. So, yeah, I just thought it was, by comparison, really, college COD, because challenges COD was played in an office building. This is the collegiate stuff going on, and I mean, Cruz puts a video out here. I think the camera work on this one could have been a little bit better, but I think this is the Esports Stadium Arlington, and it certainly looks like it from the way this stage is set up. And yeah, College COD is giving a lot of opportunities to players as well. So the collegiate side, that still seems to be pretty strong, but what's actually technically involved in the CDL definitely has some serious room for improvement. But speaking of Mercules, he was one of the big questions over the last few days, whether a change could or should have been made on OpTic Texas, right? Now, Cloud9, it's, you know, it's a thing. He got an offer from Cloud9. He didn't want to go for it for a few different reasons. I know you guys were debating it in the comment section below yesterday on kind of like, if you've got a CDL contract, you should probably take it, right? Gets you an opportunity to compete. But there's also other things to consider as well, whereby, okay, if it doesn't work out. So, like, Merc's in a very critical junction of his career now. He is going to get other offers, right? Other offers will come along at some point, whether now or in a few weeks or in the off-season, right? Like, regardless, offers will arrive. If you take an offer from a Cloud9 team, which sure, they looked good yesterday, and maybe in hindsight, Merc will think, damn, if I took Spot, you know, who knows? But obviously it's one series they've played against the Falcons, and the next series that Cloud9 play are against Toronto, FaZe, Heretics, and Thieves. So, you know, it's certainly going to be an uphill battle at the very least for them to try and make it to the World Championship. And also, if you're Merc and you sign with Cloud9, then they have plenty of opportunities to either sell you on or deal with you as they wish, effectively, right? In the same way that if Mercules was to go back to Toronto and effectively be a bench player for them, that's something to consider, because Beans had a 0.7 yesterday. I'm sure he's feeling a little bit of the pressure with Mercules not sitting on the sidelines technically, because he's still, for now, a free agent, really. He's playing for Omid. That's how the situation works. He's not contracted to a CDL team just yet. That may change, and obviously the big discussion of the last few days was, well, why didn't OpTic come out and say, hey, Merc, you did great, like, it's time to bring you into the roster instead? Maybe they will, but for now, that is not what, of course, they have decided to do. Their last stint was pretty rough. Of course, Skyz had a difficult time. As I've said, in all the context of the season so far, I don't completely hate this decision to stick it out with the team, but I do understand why. Certainly it is getting criticised, not just by fans, but pundits as well. So I wanted to share a couple of clips here from the last couple of days of, well, Zuma, Octane, JCap discussing this team effectively on the idea that they should have blown it up. Like, they should have done something, and sticking with the team they think is pretty egregious. I mean, Zuma seems to imply basically the team composition just sucks. Like, the Shotzzy Huke thing has always been a bit of a question mark, and right now that's not really working. Skyz is your flex. You know, never really made much sense to me in the first place anyway. So lots to think about for OpTic, but they've had time to think about it, and they're sticking with their team regardless, based on what Shotzzy said yesterday was because they look pretty good in practice. So, you know, can you believe it on that one? Now, of course, Jacob saying this is pretty funny, just because back in Cold War, let's not forget, that Los Angeles Thieves team, coached by JCap, made a million changes, and nothing really worked, right? Like, that was the season of just changing it every single week, and they made several moves, and they were still mid at best, right? Despite doing everything that year, changing Kenny from a sub to a flex to a maid. Drazah was in, Drazah was out, or whatever happened. Venom was in, Venom was out, and then, of course, they had the TJ situation, the Huke situation. Like, it was all going on that year. Slasher was in, John came back in, absolute mess. And JCap, the year after, then said, you know what, maybe let's just stick with the team the whole year, and guess what, they won the World Championship, right? So lessons were learned. But still, in JCap's perception, even though this OpTic team has kind of done that, they've made so many moves, he still feels like, you know, if you stick with this roster, which clearly didn't really work last stage, then it's a problem.
I'm going to start with you, Cap. Do you think OpTic should have made a change? Or do you think they should try and keep it going with Caesar and just sort of figure it out?
No, just keep going, guys. It's going great. Phone's bound to click. You know what the definition of insanity is? Just keep running it back. Eventually it'll work, guys. It's fucking lunacy that they have not fucking made a change. This is not working. I don't understand how a team with Shotzzy and Dashy is this bad for this long.
I want to play the game.
They're 5-39 map count against top 8 teams since Major 1. That was a stat we talked about before briefly. That is ridiculous. 5-39 map count against the champs teams.
They haven't beat anybody in a champ spot since January, correct?
Yeah. I don't understand.
Cap, why do you think, put yourself in their shoes. Why do you think they're not making the change? Like when someone like Merc or even the Challengers players are sitting there.
I cannot tell you. Because if I was in control of that camp, I would have probably tried a whole new formula. Whether it's deserved or not, I probably would have tried a whole new formula with Jess and Brandon, probably no Kyler. Because they keep trying to bring Huke in as like this emergency fix, and it's not really working at all. I probably would have swapped out Skyz and Huke, tried to find 2 new guys. Because the way I look at COD, the way I've looked at COD my whole life is that if you have players as talented as Ant and Brandon, You can't be that bad. You really can't. Unless you're just really, really brain dead.
They're really, really brain dead.
So unfortunately, I think they're really, really brain dead. I think that now shows in their roster.
They don't know how to play this game.
Go ahead, Sam. Expand. Also, like, it's really hard.
OpTic's team composition is terrible. Just rip the band-aid off, brother. The way that their team is, the way that their team comp lays out, the way that their team, their play styles, like the way that it all comes together, horrible. Horrible, 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 horrible. It is what it is. You need an aggressive sub. You need an entry fragger sub, somebody to get in there, which they got. They got shit like that.
Yeah.
But, and they're going to have to balance those gears. Right? You could argue that they got two maybe little rogue, you know, both Shotzzy and Kyler. They might both be a little too rogue. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have Shotzzy and Kyler have to find a dynamic amongst themselves as well because they're also all over the place. Like Shotzzy and Huke need to they're both amazing players.
I typically do post-match tweets. Nah, I don't really tweet after matches now because I definitely could, but I don't know. I just don't feel like there's... I realized, I was like, bro, why do I even tweet after matches? I only started doing it because it's like the normal thing to do, to be honest. But like the way that I look at it is that I stream. So usually I talk about the matches afterwards, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Octane, of course, pretty harsh in his assessment, saying that they just play brain-dead COD, and therefore, they've got to do something. Look, we'll see in due course, because, as I say, Mercules is still available, and if today's game goes terribly for OpTic, and, if they're not looking good in the qualifiers, and all of a sudden Rocker are making progress, Cloud9 are making progress, it's not over yet. They still have time to potentially make a change if they wanted to. But, of course, for now, they've elected not to do so. I think Shotzzy's perspective was interesting. I just wish that Shotzzy was just super straight up here, right? Because he's talking about not tweeting after matches because what's the point? And fair enough, there isn't really much point in tweeting after matches. The only point really is unless you've got something to say in terms of, okay, you won the championship, thank you to the fans, or if there was some drama in the game that you wanted to comment on, or if you beat somebody that you've got a bit of a rivalry with, then obviously you're going to tweet about it. There's no real point apart from it is the done thing. GG's, this team won 3-0. GG's, this team lost 3-1. Whatever, right? That is the classic that they do. And as Shotzzy says, he's usually going live, so he doesn't need to talk about it. But let's be real here. If OpTic were winning every game, you think you wouldn't be tweeting about the game? You know what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying Shotzi's being dishonest here, because I don't really think that he is. I don't think he certainly feels that way. But certainly from a fan's perspective, you're looking at this and thinking, well, the reason why he's not tweeted after games is because they're losing all the games to the top teams, right? Because every pro player is like this. If you start losing, you don't want to tweet about it because people are going to clown you in the replies, and it's just not going to look good. If you win, you get dope, right? People are gassing you up in the replies. Why would you not tweet if you won a series? Because you're going to get loads of people gassing you. It's just human nature, and that's totally fair enough, and I've got no issue with that at all. I've got no problem with Shotzzy wanting to tweet after wins and not wanting to tweet after losses. Totally get it. But also, let's be clear that that's what's going on here, right? The fact that OpTic's map count is 5 in 39 against teams that are qualifying for champs since January, right? Just to put that in perspective, OpTic have not beaten a team that's going to champs since January. The only teams they've beaten, Cloud9, Rocker, Falcons, that's it, basically. And Gentlemates, of course, the other one. Every other 7 teams, Miami, Boston, Ravens, and then the top 4, Surge, Toronto, FaZe, Thieves, they've lost to all of them every time they've played since January, and they've won 5 maps in the process. So, look, it's a rough stint, and I get it why Shotzi's look, let me just stay off the social media stuff, head down, focus on the game. Totally fair enough, but I also think that, at least be straight up. That's my opinion anyway. Let's talk about the games of today. I know there was some talk as well. Scump needs to come back. This is pretty wild. I mean, I know I did briefly share this yesterday, but just to put some context to this, this, of course, is Ancient here on Counter-Strike, and Scump is playing this tournament called the Annihilator Cup with, a load of other pro players, and he's in a 1v1 here against Tens, one of the greatest FPS players, and, of course, Counter-Strike, well, back in the day, Counter-Strike, and now Valorant really was most notable for in recent times. And Scump, I don't know, this guy is just unreal, isn't he? I don't understand what I know it's only a 1v1, right? And, maybe Tens plays it a little bit strange. But still, you put Scump in a 1v1 against anyone, it just doesn't matter. He's going to win it, regardless of the circumstances. So, Yeah, OpTic needs some of that dog back in them, I would say, for the rest of the season. But these are the 4 games of today. So OpTic play 1 game this weekend, they play 2 next weekends, and then 2 the weekend after that. Today's a tough game to start. Today also will likely spell the end of the Falcons' run towards the World Championship. Just to quickly keep in mind of that, I mean, the run towards the World Championship that, of course, never existed. But they are currently last at 10 points. If they win every single qualifier from now onwards, they will get 40 points. That puts them at 50. And then if they win the major, they get 100 points. That puts them at 150. So Falcons can still qualify for champs until tonight. If they lose to Rocker or if OpTic were to win, then it's over. Not like it really matters because it's been over for a few months now. But yes, OpTic plays Surge. Tough game for OpTic, right? I mean, you're expecting Surge to probably bounce back there. But it is a crucial series to see how OpTic look tonight. Rocker Falcons. Rocker obviously have to win that series, certainly because Cloud9 won yesterday. So this is, you know, an absolute must win for the Minnesota Rocker because OpTic play Boston and Rocker play Falcons. That's the only difference between their 2 schedules. So, you know, OpTic could lose to Boston as they did at the major. So Rocker have to beat Falcons to at least try and get that 10-point swing, depending on how the rest of the games go. Ravens Boston, pretty interesting. Actually kind of tough to call, but I'm going to lean Boston's way. Just Ravens look a little bit demoralized lately. Their listenings didn't impress me. And then Heretics, despite how good they are, Thieves have their number on LAN, and it's Thieves, right? They just won the major, and they're on one of the most insane online runs that we have ever seen. So yeah, those are the games for the night. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.